A body in the waves. The ocean was quiet. The sky was gray. Clouds moved slowly above the endless water. John, a human fisherman, stood on the deck of his old ship, the Luna Ray. It was just another boring day. No fish, no wind. Only the sound of water. He took a deep breath and looked out. The sea always helped him think. But today, something was strange. There was something floating in the water. At first, he thought it was garbage. Maybe a broken robot. The oceans were full of junk after the last space war. But then it moved, slowly, weakly. Like a hand. John shouted, "Hey, come look at this." His crewmates, old Mark and young Rena, came to see. Rena pulled out her scope and zoomed in. "It's not garbage," she said. Her face turned pale. "It's a person, or something like a person." John didn't wait. He threw off his coat and dove into the water. "John, stop! It's alien. We don't get involved," Mark shouted. But John was already swimming. The water was cold, sharp, but he swam fast. The body was drifting away. The waves pushed it like it didn't matter. When he reached her, he saw it clearly. It was a girl. But not human. Her skin was light blue. Her arms were thin, her fingers long. She had gills on her neck. And something metal was stuck in her skin, glowing chip, blinking red. She wasn't breathing. John grabbed her and swam back. She was cold, almost lifeless. Was still beating. They pulled her onto the ship. Rena gasped. "She's just a kid," Mark frowned, "and probably dangerous." John ignored them. He pumped her chest, gave her air, again and again. And then she gasped, choked, and coughed up water. She opened her eyes, bright silver eyes, and stared at him. "It's okay," John said softly. "You're safe now." But she didn't answer. She screamed, a sharp, loud, high scream in a language no one understood. She backed away from him, her body shaking. "Easy," John said, showing his hands. "We're not going to hurt you." She looked around, scared, confused, and then she fainted. Later, they put her in a small bed inside the ship. She was sleeping, breathing slowly. John sat beside her watching. "She's just a child," Rena said. "What do we do with her?" John looked at the chip on her neck. It blinked again. Something about it felt wrong. He took a photo of the symbol and sent it to an old contact, Arlen, a tech expert who studied alien tech after the war. He got a reply 5 minutes later. "Message, get her off your ship. Now that mark belongs to the Red Circle." John's face changed. The Red Circle, a name whispered in dark corners. An alien group known for cruel experiments. Even the Galactic Law feared them. Before he could speak, a loud beep came from the radar. Rena checked it and said, "Ships are coming, fast, from the north sky." "Not human." John stood up. "They're looking for her." Mark said, "Let's toss her back. We didn't ask for this." John stared at him. "We're not animals, but we'll die." John turned to the girl. She was awake now. Eyes wide, scared again. He knelt beside her. "Do you understand me?" She pointed to the chip on her neck. Then she held her hands together like chains. Then she pointed at the sky. "She's telling us," Rena said. "They're hunting her." Like a slave, the ship began to shake. Outside, bright lights lit the sea. 3 alien crafts floated above them, dark, sharp, and deadly. A deep voice spoke through the speaker. "Return our property, human, or you will be destroyed." John stood tall. "She's not property." The voice replied, "You have 30 seconds." The girl grabbed John's hand. She whispered something, then touched the wall. A soft blue light spread across the ship. A hidden panel opened. "What the?" Rena gasped. The girl knew the ship, somehow, and she was trying to save them. John looked at her. A child thrown like trash into the sea. A child who still wanted to live. He made a choice. Get ready to run. he said. The countdown began. 20 seconds. He looked at the girl. Hold on. 10 seconds. They started the engine. The girl closed her eyes. And then boom. They flew. Asterisk. The stars rushed past the windows as the lunar ray flew through space. Alarms blinked. The engines groaned. But the ship held together. John sat in the pilot's seat, breathing hard. He had just stolen a child from one of the most dangerous groups in the galaxy. And now they were running. Behind him, the alien girl sat quietly in the corner of the ship. Wrapped in a blanket, her eyes scanned the room, sharp, alert, afraid. She hadn't spoken since they escaped. John looked back. "You okay?" She didn't reply, just stared at him, like she was trying to decide if he was a friend or just another enemy. A soft beep echoed. Rena was at the control panel, scanning space. "They're still chasing us," she said. "One ship behind, fast, maybe 2 hours before they catch up." Mark growled. "We should dump her, give her to them." "It's not our fight. She's a kid," John said firmly. "You don't throw kids to monsters." Mark crossed his arms. "You don't risk your life for a stranger either." John ignored him. He walked to the girl and sat on the floor. "I need to understand why they want you," he said gently. "What's so special about you?" The girl looked at him, then slowly reached into the blanket and pulled out something small. It was a metal piece. Thin, black, and shaped like a triangle with a circle inside it. John took it carefully. It was warm to the touch. "Strange. What is this?" She didn't speak. Instead, she stood up, walked to the ship wall, and drew the same symbol with her. Finger, triangle, and circle. Then she pointed to herself. Then to the symbol. Then she drew a crack through the symbol. "She broke it," Rena whispered. "She escaped from them." John nodded slowly. "And now they want her back, or dead." Suddenly, the ship lights flickered. The girl dropped to her knees. She held her head in pain. Her body began to glow faint blue. The same symbol on the metal chip flashed red. "What's happening?" Rena shouted. John ran to her. "It's the chip, it's doing something." The girl gasped, then screamed. The lights on the ship went dark. And then a bright image appeared in the air, a hologram, projected from her. Everyone froze. In the image, a cold voice spoke. "This is Command 9 of the Red Circle. Asset number 47 has escaped containment. She carries classified memory. Any species offering shelter will face total elimination." Then the image showed images of children like her, trapped in glass tanks, crying, screaming. John's heart broke. "This isn't just one child," he whispered. "There were others." The image vanished. Lights came back. The girl was lying on the floor, weak, shaking. John gently picked her up. "You're not just running for yourself. You're carrying a secret, a terrible one." She looked at him with teary eyes and nodded. Rena whispered, "Those weren't hospitals. They were labs. She was a test subject," John said. "She escaped with something they don't want the world to see." He looked at the metal chip again. "This isn't just a tag. It's a storage device, a recording, a truth they want to hide." Mark shook his head. "We're in over our heads. They'll wipe us out for this." John's voice was calm, but strong. "Then we show the galaxy. We show them what she saw." Rena moved closer. "But how? This tech, it's alien. We don't even know how to open it." The girl heard her. Slowly, she touched the triangle chip again. Her finger glowed. The chip opened slightly like a flower. Inside was pure white light. Strange shapes. Floating code. "She's the key," Rena said. Suddenly alarm beeps. The radar lit up red. "They found us," Mark said. "One ship coming fast." John rushed to the controls. "We can't outrun them." "Not anymore." Rena looked at the girl. "We have to hide or fight." The girl stood up. She was still weak, but her eyes were glowing. She walked to a wall panel and opened another hidden chamber. "What is this?" John asked. The girl pointed inside. A hidden room, shielded, with old escape pods. She placed the chip inside a small metal box and handed it to John. Then she drew a circle in the air. "What's she saying?" Rena asked. John looked at her and understood. "She wants us to protect it, even if she doesn't make it." Outside, the enemy ship grew closer. Its weapons powered up. Inside, a child who was once treated like trash stood tall, carrying the most dangerous secret in the galaxy. And one human stood beside her, refusing to let go. The sky behind them was burning. John tightened his grip on the controls as the enemy ship got closer. Rena called out, "We've got 20 seconds before they fire." The alien girl stood behind them, quiet, but her silver eyes were glowing. "Again, options?" John asked. Mark checked the panel. "We can't outrun them, and we can't fight them either. We have no weapons." "Then we hide," John said, "or we trick them." The alien girl walked to a small console and pressed her hand on it. Blue light spread again, unlocking another panel on the lunar ray, a part of the ship John never knew existed. A map appeared in the air. It showed a small moon nearby, cold and dark. "She wants us to go there," Rena said. John looked at the moon. "That place is dead. No signals, no life." The girl turned to him. Her voice was soft but clear. "That's why they won't follow." The lunar ray dove toward the moon. Behind them, the red circle ship fired, but missed. The alien girl moved to the control panel again, her fingers glowing. She sent a strange signal through the ship's system. Suddenly, the lunar ray disappeared from enemy radar. Mark stared. "She cloaked us with our own ship." John was stunned. "How does she know all this?" Rena looked at the girl with new eyes. "She wasn't just locked in a lab, they trained her. She's not just smart, she's a weapon." They landed on the frozen moon, hidden inside a narrow cave. The engines shut down. The ship became silent. Outside, wind howled. The sky was black. The rocks were sharp and broken. Inside the ship, the girl touched the floor. She whispered a few words in her own language. The walls lit up with symbols, strange and alien. John watched as one of the symbols turned red. "She's scanning the area," Rena said, "for life forms." After a pause, the girl pointed at one spot on the screen, a weak signal. "A structure deep under the surface. She wants to go there?" John asked. The girl nodded. "Why?" Mark said nervously. "That place could be crawling with red circle agents." But the girl shook her head. She drew a circle in the air, then a cross over it. "Red circle doesn't go there," Rena guessed. "They avoid it." John looked at her. "Then that's exactly where we need to be." They left the ship with warm suits. The girl didn't wear one. She didn't need to. The cold didn't touch her. They walked over cracked ground and icy hills. Strange ruins stood in the distance, old alien buildings made of black stone. As they entered the main structure, the air grew warmer. Lights turned on by themselves. "It's responding to her," Rena whispered. The girl walked slowly into the heart of the ruin. She stopped in front of a tall wall with carvings. Then she placed her hand on it. The wall opened. Behind it was a room full of glowing orbs, silent, beautiful, strange. "She's been here before," John realized. "Maybe. Not in body, but in memory." The girl stepped forward and picked up one orb. It flashed. A new hologram filled the room. This time, it showed a human, a red circle commander, speaking to alien scientists. "The test children will not survive full memory integration, but we will learn enough to use them as tools of control." Then, images of children screaming, burning, dying. The girl's hands shook. She closed her eyes. Tears rolled down her blue skin. "She remembers it all," Rena said, heartbroken. "Every child, every death." John clenched his fists. That's what she carries, not just the data, the pain, the guilt, the whole truth. Suddenly, a loud sound came from above. The red circle ship had landed. They followed us anyway. Mark shouted. "No," John said. "They couldn't track us." Then he realized they didn't follow the ship. They followed her. The group ran back toward the lunar ray. But they were not alone. Red circle soldiers dropped from the sky tall. Armored, silent. One aimed a weapon at the girl. John moved without thinking. He jumped in front of her. The blast hit him in the shoulder. He fell to the ground. The girl screamed again, a sound filled with grief and rage, and something changed. Her eyes turned white. Her body glowed bright blue. The air around her cracked with energy. Rena backed away. "She's activating something." The ground shook. The ruin lit up. And the red circle soldiers began to freeze in place. Not with ice, but with memory. They dropped their weapons, holding their heads, screaming. They saw what she saw. They felt what she felt. One soldier fell to his knees and begged, "Forgive me," then. Silence. The girl fell too, exhausted. Her power faded. But her message was clear. She would not run anymore. John sat up, bleeding but smiling. "You just fought back," he whispered. "You're not just a weapon. You're a voice." And now they've heard it. The ship was damaged. John's shoulder was burned. The engine was cracked. And the girl who had just used powers no one understood was now unconscious. Still, they escaped. Rena guided the lunar ray away from the frozen moon. Behind them, red circle soldiers lay broken and stunned. Some were crying. Others simply stared into space, haunted by the memories the girl had forced into their minds. "She didn't kill them," Rena whispered. "She made them remember." Mark didn't speak. He was pale, quiet. John sat with the girl, wrapping a soft blanket around her small frame. She was breathing, but weak. "She can't do that again," he said. "Not without breaking." "Rena, check the ship's computer. We need a safe place to hide. Somewhere quiet, somewhere no one goes." Mark looked at the map. He pointed to a dark, distant world, Virex 9, dead planet. No colonies, no signals, no life. Rena shook her head. "There's a reason no one goes there." John glanced at the sleeping girl. "Then it's perfect." They changed course. The journey took 3 days. Each night, John sat beside the girl as she slept. Sometimes she mumbled words in her own language. Sometimes she cried. Once, she gripped his hand tightly and wouldn't let go. They didn't know her name. So John gave her one. "Luma," he whispered. "You shine even in the dark." They landed on Virex 9 during its endless night. The sky was black, no stars. The ground was covered in dust. The air was toxic. They wore suits as they stepped out of the ship. Luma didn't need one. She walked ahead of them, barefoot, like she already knew the path. "How does she know where to go?" Rena asked. "She's been carrying more than just memories," John said. "She's carrying a map." They walked through dead cities made of stone and glass. Buildings were broken. Vehicles turned to rust. But there were no bones. No signs of war. Just silence. Until they saw them. Figures. Standing still in the streets like statues. Men, women, children. All frozen in place. Their skin was gray. Their eyes wide open. "Are they dead?" Mark whispered. John walked closer. He touched one gently. It didn't fall. It didn't move. "They look real." Rena said, "Like they were." Paused. Luma stepped forward and placed her hand on one of them. A whisper passed through the air. A wind that wasn't wind. A voice without sound. And suddenly, Luma's body froze too. "Luma." John ran to her, shaking her gently. She didn't respond. Her eyes were open, glowing. But she didn't move. "She's linked," Rena said, "to whatever did this." Mark backed away. "We shouldn't have come here. This place is cursed." Suddenly, Luma spoke, but it wasn't her voice. Project Silencer. Testing complete. Emotional virus effective. Memory lock successful. Rena looked shocked. It was a weapon, not to kill, but to paralyze. To trap people in their worst memories. They locked entire cities inside their minds, John whispered. Trapped in fear. In guilt. Luma collapsed. John caught her before she hit the ground. She showed them pain on the last moon, Rena said. But here, the pain lives forever. Back on the ship, Luma rested. But something was wrong. The air inside the ship felt heavy. The lights flickered, and the crew began to see things. John saw flames. The war. His brother dying on a battlefield. A promise he never kept. Rena saw her mother's face cold and still in a hospital bed. Mark heard the screams of children he couldn't save. It's the virus, Rena said. The planet is leaking it. We brought it inside. They put on masks, but it didn't stop the memories. Only Luma didn't suffer. She was already full. She stood up, walked to the console, and touched it. A circle appeared on the screen. She pointed to it. She's found the source, John said. The core that's spreading the memory lock. She wants to shut it down, Rena said. They returned to the city. Deeper this time. At the center was a large black tower, glowing faintly. At the top, a sphere pulsed with red light. Luma walked forward. No fear, no hesitation. Red Circle had used her to create this place. Now she would end it. Inside the tower, they reached the sphere. It was humming with power. Luma stepped up and placed her hand on it. The red glow turned white. The ground shook. The statues outside began to blink. One cried out. Another fell to their knees. They were waking up. She's breaking the lock, John said. The sphere cracked. Light poured out. Then it exploded. Silenced out when the dust cleared. Luma was on the ground. John ran to her. Luma. She opened her eyes, smiled. They're free, she whispered. And then she fainted again, but the statues were moving now. People. Real people, waking from decades of pain. The planet Virex-9 was no longer dead. People, once frozen in fear, were walking again, silent, confused. Many fell to their knees and wept. Others screamed, reliving old pain now made real. John stood among them, holding Luma close. Her skin was cold, but her heart was still beating. She freed them, he whispered. All of them. Rena looked around. Not just from the memory lock, she freed them from silence. Mark checked the sky. We need to move. This place will draw attention, John nodded. And Luma's power is fading. We need answers before it's too late. Back aboard the Lunar Ray, Luma slept quietly. Her face was peaceful for once. John connected the chip she carried to the ship's main console. The data inside it, millions of lines of alien code, began to pour onto the screen. Rena ran a translation. A message appeared. Project Red Circle. Phase 3. Child mind weapons. John leaned forward. So it's true. They made children into weapons. But there was more. A file opened. A video began to play. The screen showed a cold, metal room. Doctors in black suits stood behind glass. Inside the room, a child, blue-skinned, small, terrified. It was Luma. A voice spoke from the recording. Subject 47 shows perfect recall. She remembers all test simulations. Emotional triggers are strong. Begin memory load protocol. Another voice answered, warning. Overload may cause permanent mind damage. Noted. Continue anyway. The child in the video began to scream. Bright light filled the room. Then the screen went black. John turned away. They tortured her mind. Again and again. Mark stared at the floor. That's why she freezes people with memories. She became the weapon they designed. But she didn't choose this, Rena said. She escaped. She ran. She's not their tool anymore. Another file unlocked. A map of red circle facilities. One location blinked red. John read the label. Red circle main vault, sector X4 below the label. Remaining test subjects, 17. John froze. There are more. Rena whispered. She wasn't the only one. Luma opened her eyes. She had heard everything. She sat up slowly and pointed at the red marker on the map. Her voice was soft. We go there. Mark shook his head. That's suicide. Their main base? It's guarded like a fortress. Luma didn't blink. She stared at him, her eyes full of something new, anger. Children, she said. Like me, John nodded. We're not leaving them behind. The next day, they reached a safe zone near Sector X4. John contacted a friend from the Resistance, an old soldier named Marek, who owed him a life debt. Marek appeared on the screen. Gray beard and one robotic eye. You're crazy, he said. You want to break into the heart of the red circle? Do you know how many people died trying that? John held up the chip. We have proof now. And we have someone who knows the... Inside, he turned the camera to Luma. Marek stared at her. Then sighed. Send me your coordinates. I'll bring a crew. They landed near a broken satellite station. Just 2 hours from the red circle vault. Inside the station, the Resistance team gathered 10 fighters, 2 ships, and 1 shared mission. Marek stood before them and said, We're not just attacking a lab. We're burning down a machine that eats children. He looked at Luma. Tell us how to get in. She stepped forward and used her finger to draw a layout of the vault on the dusty floor. This, she said, pointing to a thin wall, is weak. Power there fails sometimes. She drew more symbols. 1 circle with a lock. John asked, What's that? Luma hesitated. Then said, Where they keep the pain. Later that night, John sat outside the ship, watching the stars. Luma came beside him, quiet. He handed her a small stone from Varex 9. For you, from the place you saved. She took it. Her fingers trembled. You gave them back their voices, he said. She looked at him, then whispered, I was just trying to be free. John nodded. You are now. But we still have others to set free. Luma looked toward the red circle base. In the distance, a red light blinked on the horizon. They will try to stop us, she said. John smiled. Let them try. The desert was silent. The stars above shined cold and uncaring. In the distance, the red circle vault stood like a mountain made of metal, tall, dark, glowing, faint red. It pulsed like a heart. Inside that heart were children. Just like Luma, John stood with the Resistance crew on a ridge above the vault. His shoulder was still injured. His body was tired. But his eyes were sharp. We have 1 shot, he said quietly. They won't see us coming. But if they do, we fight. No running. Luma stepped forward. She had drawn the base layout on a screen using her memory. A small weak point in the east wall. A maintenance tunnel. No guards, no sensors. Only 1 keypad. She pointed to it and said, I can open it. I remember the code. Marek, the Resistance leader, loaded his weapon. We get in. We get the children. We leave, fast. Mark added, and if the alarms go off? John looked at them all. Then I stay behind. The plan was simple. Luma and Rena would enter first through the tunnel and disable security. The Resistance team would move in, grab the children, and head for the extraction point. John would stay at the tunnel gate alone to cover their escape. He didn't tell anyone this. Only Luma knew. The team moved through the sand under darkness. No sound. No lights. Just fear and quiet hope. At the wall, Luma touched the keypad. Her fingers glowed faintly. The lock beeped. Open. Inside was a narrow hall, metal walls, no windows, strange humming sounds. Luma whispered, They watch from the walls, but not here. This tunnel is old. They entered. The inside of the vault was worse than John expected. Cold. Steel-glass rooms. And inside them children. Some slept, some sat in corners, some stared at the wall like they had forgotten what the sky looked like. Rena covered her mouth. They're so small. One boy looked up at Luma. His lips moved. Sister? Luma ran to the glass and placed her hand on it. He did the same. John felt something rise in his chest, a heat, not anger. Rage. Then the alarm sounded, a loud, violent screech. They knew. Red lights flashed. Walls shifted. Robotic guards dropped from the ceiling. You were followed, Mark shouted. No, Luma said, eyes wide. They knew we were coming, Merrick shouted. Get the kids. We're out in 3 minutes. Chaos exploded. Gunfire. Smoke. Screams. John pushed through the hallway, covering Rena as she led 2 children to safety. Luma opened more glass doors with her hands. Every time she touched them, a soft ping followed, and another child was free. But soldiers closed in from all sides. One guard aimed at Luma. John jumped in the way. The blast hit him hard. He fell, coughing blood, but he stood up. Run! He yelled. One soldier walked forward, different from the others. He wore no helmet. His face was human. You shouldn't have come, the man said calmly. This place is sacred, John coughed. You call this sacred? You lock up children like animals. These children are peacekeepers, the man replied. Their pain brings order. Luma stood behind John, trembling. The man pointed at her. She is the most dangerous of all. You don't know what she really is, do you? John didn't blink. I don't care what she is. She's not yours. The man stepped closer. You're one human, standing against something that rules 100 stars. John pulled out his last grenade. I only need to stop one hallway. The guard paused. Then smiled coldly. You think this ends here? We have more, thousands more. She's just one. Luma's voice was soft but firm. Then I'll free them all. She stepped forward. Her eyes glowed. The lights went out. And for a moment, everything was still. Then came the wave, not of sound, but of memory. The same weapon Luma had used before unleashed full. The soldiers screamed, clutched their heads, dropped to their knees. The human commander tried to resist, but his eyes rolled back. He saw it all, every test, every cage, every cry. He dropped to the floor. Make it stop, he whispered. Please. Luma stood over him. Now you remember. The children were free. The resistance crew rushed them out through the tunnel. John held the side of the wall. Barely standing, Luma turned to him. You stayed. He smiled through pain. Someone had to. She reached out, touched his wound, and for a brief moment, it glowed, but calmed. Come on, she said. We're not done yet. As the lunar ray lifted off from the vault, explosions rocked the base. Inside, the memories Luma had released continued to play a storm of truth. The red circle could hide behind their machines no longer. Their victims had voices now. From space, the base looked small, but to those who were there, it was the start of something big. The beginning of a war, and the day when one man stood alone, not with weapons, but with courage. The stars were brighter now. The lunar ray flew silently through space, far from the red circle vault, carrying over a dozen alien children once trapped in cages. Each one sat quietly, eyes wide, faces blank. But they were free, and Luma the girl, once tossed into the sea like garbage, stood tall at the front of the ship, watching the galaxy pass by. John sat nearby, his arm still wrapped in bandages. Pain throbbed through his body, but his heart was steady. She did it, Rena whispered. She broke the system. No, John said. She just started something. Now comes the real fight. In the ship's command room, Luma placed the final memory chip into a small device. One by one, she had gathered all the proof, footage from the vault, records of the tests, names of every child used by the red circle. John watched as she connected the device to the ship's broadcast system. You're sure? He asked. Luma nodded. The galaxy needs to see. He didn't stop her. With a press of her glowing finger, the message was sent across every open channel, every satellite, every planet willing to listen. Screens lit up in city centers, on space stations, in quiet colonies. And people watched. They saw the children, the cages, the screams. They saw scientists from every species. They saw the truth. Anger rose. People demanded answers. Protests started. Small, then bigger. Soon, entire systems began cutting ties with the Red Circle Alliance. And, just like that, a secret hidden for years began to fall apart. But deep in the dark of space, inside a golden chamber on a black ship, an old man watched the same message with cold eyes. His face was covered in scars. His robe was red, the true leader of the Red Circle. He didn't blink as the screen played Luma's face. "She survived," he said softly. A voice beside him asked, "Shall we erase her?" The man shook his head. "No, let her speak. Let the galaxy believe she won. Then, when hope is strongest, we take it away." He turned to a wall, pressed a button, and the room lit up, rows and rows of tanks, filled with children. Not 12, not 20, hundreds, double quotes begin, Phase 4, he said. Back aboard the Lunar Ray, the rescued children began to recover. They spoke. In short words, they drew pictures. They laughed, softly. One boy gave Luma a flower he made from broken wires. "You saved us," he said. She touched his hand and smiled. John saw it all. "She's not a weapon," he whispered to Rena. "She's a beacon." But he also knew what was coming. The Red Circle wouldn't stop. Not after what she did. Later that night, John walked to the observation window. Luma joined him. "There are more, aren't there?" she asked. John didn't lie. "Yes." She looked down at her hands. "I was made in a lab. I was designed for war. But you jumped into the ocean for me." "Why?" He looked at her, eyes steady. "Because you were drowning, and because you were alone," she nodded. "I'm not alone now." "No," he said. "Now you have a voice, and you're going to use it." Soon, the galaxy gave her a name. Not Subject 47. Not the weapon, not the trash girl, but Luma the survivor. She became a symbol of truth, of freedom. Of a future without cages. And everywhere, more people began rising up. Breaking old alliances, destroying Red Circle labs, rescuing more children. The war had not ended, but it had begun on her terms. 1 week later, a new signal came in. A hidden planet sent a message. "We found another vault. 17 more children. We need help." Luma turned to John. He already had his jacket on. She smiled. Rena powered up the engines. Mark rolled his eyes. "Can't we rest for one day?" "Nope," John said. "Legends don't sleep." As the lunar ray jumped into warp, the stars stretched around them like white threads. Luma sat in the front seat, now. No longer the cargo. No longer the burden, but the captain of her own story. And far in the distance, where the Red Circle watched, from their shadows, they finally feared the very thing they tried to throw away, from trash to legend. And this was just the beginning.